From afar, what's it been like for you watching this Bears team this season?
It's reminiscent. I'll say that because there's been a few seasons in the 8 years of being with the Bears that we've had some tough starts. Maybe not as tough as the one that they're going through right now, but there've been some tough games where at halftime we're down two or three touchdowns and we look bad and it doesn't look good. But it's reminiscent because some of the same issues are still there. I'll say that. As far as like the offensive line up front, giving up a lot of pressure, having penetration in the run game and things like that. But then also just the continuity of the team, a lot of moving parts. I would say this from my perspective. Over the 8 years being in Chicago, we had three different GMs, three different head coaches, and five different offensive coordinators. So when you have that type of turnover, it's really hard to get on the same page offensively or as a team in general and put together some wins.
What do you make of the play calling in the running game, particularly the way they run outside zone?
Yeah, it's not my favorite. A lot of times they're calling a lot of gun runs too, which happened late in my career as well, which I had to kind of reinvent, that running style because I'm used to being in the eye. We'll get in the gun every now and then, but coming downhill, when you're at 7.5 yards, it's different at 5.5 yards, and things happen a lot faster, and you kind of let your plays develop or your blocks develop. So I just don't like running sideways a lot when it comes to that type of stuff. Now, outside zone is a little different because you're stretching the defense, trying to get them to overplay or get a cutback. But I think we need to, in the run game, mix up the formations, stop running the same play out of the same formations and stuff, but then also find out what our offensive line does best. What kind of runs do they love? Do we like double teams, ISO blocks, or are we a zone run offensive line? So when Aaron Cromer came in one year, we ran a play called duo a lot, which was all double teams across the line. And basically you're reading the second level as a running back, and you have the ability to bounce it outside and be one-on-one with a cornerback or a safety, or you hit it up inside and there's, that double team push. So, those type of things is something that should have been studied back in, camp, but sometimes you got to learn them on the fly during the season.
When you started to see the gun runs become a little bit more prevalent, what did the offensive coaches say? Like, was their reasoning behind it? Because I think that what you're saying makes so much sense of, especially in short yardage situation, the idea of not wasting movement going horizontally versus going vertically makes a lot of sense when you're just trying to get 1 yard.
Yeah. The premise behind it basically was that they're trying to disguise certain passes by being in the gun, which it goes both ways. Sometimes you can disguise a certain run by being in the gun, or you can disguise a run by being or a pass by being under center. But I've never been a big fan of short yardage gun runs. If you can spread them out and you can get a 6-man box, that's cool, because basically, you run over one guy or make them miss, and you got a chance to get 1.5 yards or 2 yards or whatever, but you're still running sideways. I think one of the things that they have to take into account is that, Mr. Fields definitely can run. So when we're doing gun runs, giving him that option to pull it does take an extra guy out of the box. And that makes some of those inside zone runs when you're in the gun a lot easier. When I was we were running that. Jay would pull it every now and then, but he wasn't a big runner, as far as doing that. Now, when it's an obvious one and the end is crashing down and there's like no room, yeah, he'll pull it. But you can't guarantee you're not going to make your bread and butter. especially on short yardage situations.
Bears have not thrown a lot of balls to running backs either. And a lot of that is because Khalil Herbert's hands just really haven't been reliable. So I understand it. Sort of the opposite of what became a bread and butter play with you as a check down or even out of a wheel route when you got a favorable matchup against a linebacker. Is it fair to speculate that now with Herbert on the shelf for a while, with more Deontay Foreman and or Roshan Johnson, that they might be smart to utilize more passes to the back?
Yeah, I mean, right now, right now they should be open to everything when it comes to that, because a lot of times with those screenplays or either short routes, they are pretty quick developing. Sometimes with screens, you gotta sell it. That's the main part. If you're not selling it, they sniff it out really quick, and it ends up being a negative play. So they definitely got to look at those intermediate passes, those short passes and screens to the backs, and to rotate them. Sometimes it makes sense to have a screen called to a back on one side, but then also a quick route on the outside if they're playing off coverage. So I think not overloading Justin too much, but I think he has the capacity to think about two different plays or two options and to call two different plays in the huddle to make sure we get the best call that's at the line of scrimmage based on what the defense is doing. But that's what the best offensive coordinators and that's what the best guys do. They don't call just one play. They come up there with a few options, and we, scout the defense and see what they're doing and try to take advantage of those open spots or those matchups.
What do you think of Fields?
I spoke about this earlier. I feel like Justin, people are doubting, is he the long-term answer and things like that. I think he's been answered that question, that he can be the long-term answer and that he is. But you got to support anybody up front. I don't care if you got Drew Brees, Tom Brady, John Elway, Johnny Unitas. We can go all the way back. I don't care who it is being the quarterback. You got to support them up front. And if you're giving up pressure off the edge, up the middle, those things. And I'm not trying to put all the blame on the offensive line either. I'm just saying that even with Justin, you saw early in the year, he was very mechanical, very robotic, kind of second-guessing certain throws up the seam and downfield. So the whole team has to come together as far as that continuity, and like if he feels comfortable that he's not getting pressured and having to take off or worry about somebody coming off the edge, blindside and stuff. Like last week, they kept his feet pretty clean, and even though the Commanders are they're obviously not Super Bowl contenders or nothing like that, but it is the NFL and their real defense. They did pretty well, and I think if they do that, they'll have to. They may start trying to double team DJ Moore, and that opens up Darnell, and that opens up, screens and short passes to the backs and stuff. So I think we have to take what the defense is going to try to give us.
How do you feel when you watch Bears games now? Do you get into it emotionally, or is that just not a thing?
Absolutely. I think I love the Bears, and I want to see them succeed. This city and the fans especially deserve a good team, and I get I'm definitely emotionally invested in every game, and some of them hurt. Sometimes I try not to get so emotionally invested because, like the Denver game, that brought back some feelings. Like I think my rookie year we played down in Atlanta, and we went up with a go-ahead touchdown and kicked a squib kick, and they ended up Matt Ryan threw a corner route once, and then they had Jason Elam, and you hear Jason Elam, you kind of know it's going in, and they kicked the field goal and won the game, and that hurt. That, as you can see, I still remember that from 15 years ago. So some of these things, still hurt, but I will always be emotionally invested in, the Bears because I want to see them win. I want to see them succeed and do well.
Yeah, and you were one of the first people I thought of on the 4th and 1 play in that game, just because they lined up in shotgun, and I'm like, oh, Matt's told me about this over and over again, and and you have a 6'3", 230-pound quarterback, and I'm just going, is that the best play for that situation? I don't know. I leave that up to people like you guys to help me out in situations like that. But it does make me. I'm so glad that they went from that, Matt, to the next week. Now they're doing the same quarterback sneak that the Eagles are doing. I'm like, why weren't you doing that before?
Yeah, the copycat league, man. They should have been doing that. You got a big, strong quarterback. Jalen Hurts, they say he squats 600 pounds, something like that. But shoot, Justin is bigger than he is, and he may not squat as much, but he's a big guy. So figuring that out should have been. These are things that got to be figured out before the season starts. And then I was actually talking with my dad about this. That fourth down play, it's kind of a catch-22, or it's like a double-edged sword, because on fourth down and 1, an offense should be able to get 1 yard. You should be. Yeah, the other guys on the other side of the ball get paid too, but you definitely should be able to get that. And I've been in situations where we've had penetration on 4th and 1, and we've many times got stuffed. But that's not on the coach. Now, the other side of the coin is, if I'm the coach and it's a 4th and 1 situation like that, and I got a chance to kick the field goal and all that, and I know that my guys up front aren't that trustworthy on the short yardage, then I'm going with what my gut says, and like, man, I'm not sure. I'm really not that confident in them. Let's kick the field goal. So that kind of assessment has to be made. Yeah, it's one of those things where as a coach, you like, if y'all can't get 1 yard, we don't deserve to win. And then sometimes you go out there and you don't get it, but you got to make that assessment. Like, do I really know that these guys are gonna get this or not?
I didn't want to think about that Falcons game.
I mean, Matt didn't want to think about it either.
That was brutal. I guess I asked the question. I brought it up
Hey, man,
myself.
why you bringing up old stuff?
Right? I'm just sorry. So